Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Spicy Pisces podcast. I'm your host, Emma Jepson, and I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining me today. So today is currently Sunday, February 25th. My birthday is not until the 28th, which is Wednesday. However, I celebrated my birthday this weekend with some friends just because the weekdays are kind of hard to find time with people just because a lot of my friends are working and in midterms and classes right now. So I celebrated this weekend, but by the time this episode is posted, I'm actually posting it Wednesday morning, so I'm posting it on my birthday. So that's when it's going to be up, but it's actually a few days earlier. And last night I just had some friends over to celebrate. I'm turning 21 this year, so whoop whoop. I didn't really want to do anything crazy just because I feel like that's not really me. I know some of my friends in the past have had a bunch of people over and they've thrown a huge party with a bunch of people that, you kind of know, but not really. And I just kind of wanted more of an intimate setting with my closest friends and being able to talk to them the whole night and not go around like trying to host and like talk to every single person in the room. So it was a really fun night. A lot of my friends came and went because they had some other plans, but it was super chill. Had some drinks. It was a fun time. And I also got a really fun cake this year from, it's called Buttercream Boston, I believe. Buttercream in Boston. And they're a home bakery, but they sell out of this one store in Southie or South Boston. And so I went to pick it up yesterday. And they do the coolest designs, so definitely go look them up. Buttercream in Boston. They have the prettiest aesthetic and piping and colors that they use, and they do the craziest, coolest designs. Cherries on top, little disco balls. They put frogs on top of a cake recently that looked so beautiful. Like the light pink, the baby pink, and the green that they use. So that was really cool. But I knew I really wanted to get a cake from there because I wanted to do something fun this year, and I feel like I always have a hard time doing nice things for myself in general that involve spending money and just like, I don't know, I get weird about treating myself a lot, and so this year I really wanted to do something fun, and so I found them on Instagram about a month ago, and I immediately knew this is exactly where I wanted to get my cake from this year, and I looked up on Pinterest some inspo and also on their Instagram, but I ultimately decided on a baby pink colored cake with white piping on the sides and then cherries on top. I wanted to keep it pretty minimalist, but I was thinking maybe disco balls or something purple or a little bit more like funky, but the classic design seemed more along the lines of what I wanted to get this year. So that's what I got. A photo's up on my Instagram, I think, like I said before, so you can check it out there. But super happy with how it turned out. And I also got my nails done yesterday, which I haven't done in a while. Like I said, I have a hard time, like, getting, what's the phrase? Like, just kind of dressing up. Like, my roommate curled my hair, which was so sweet of her. Isabel, thank you for that. It looks so good, even today. And like that was cute, and like getting my nails done and getting all dressed up. Like I don't do that a lot, so that was really special and it made me feel really special, which I liked. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else I had to say before we get into the main part of today's episode. I guess so on my actual birthday, like I said, also a lot of my closest friends, I'm the oldest out of all of them, so I can't do a proper going out to a bar or something with them. So we're going to wait till they all turn 21 and then we'll do something big when we're all legal. And I don't even really like to drink that much anymore, but I do see like the fun in going out to a bar setting with the music and like chatting with people and that kind of casual setting, or a club and dancing. So not even that I'm going to drink a lot, but it's just fun to be able to have that option to go out and have fun in that way. So I'm looking forward to that. But on Wednesday, I'm going out with my coworkers, I believe, which I'm very excited about. They're like more excited about it than me. So that'll be really fun on my actual birthday. And then next weekend, my parents are coming up to visit me, and then we're going to go out to dinner and celebrate together. So that'll be really cute. But definitely weird not being at home. I've talked about this with some of my friends, but not being at home for your birthday or being that close to family to celebrate with them, or your closest relatives or closest friends or whoever you celebrated with growing up. And so that's always kind of weird, because I feel like every year since I've been at school, like at home, I'd celebrate with my family every year, siblings, usually the same friends. Obviously they changed as I went from middle school and then throughout high school, but it was like mostly the same people. But I feel like in college every year it's been a different group of people, which has been weird, because I'm almost like, I feel like the next year, like, who's going to be part of my life at this time or whatever. So that's always kind of weird. But this year I was really happy with how it turned out, and the people I invited, I made sure not to feel obligated to invite. I feel like I've done this in the past. You feel obligated to invite people, and who you aren't necessarily super close with, but you kind of get nervous about if they find out that they weren't invited, or like you're kind of sort of friends, so you feel like you should, but then it's almost more awkward when they're there because they either don't know everyone else, or like you're not that close, or like you feel like they don't want to be there, but they felt like they had to come because you invited them. I don't know if that's like just a me problem, but I feel like some other people have dealt with that. So I made sure not to feel pressured to invite anyone just because I felt like I had to. I made sure it was really, truly only the people that I really wanted to celebrate with me this year. So I was really happy with that and having a chill evening. But anyways, moving into the main part of today's episode, I wanted to talk about birthday cake and food guilt surrounding enjoying food on your birthday, and I guess just food guilt in general, but specifically relating to birthday cake, because I know in past years I have struggled so much with that, and I've forced myself to work out excessively on my birthday and on whatever day I'm celebrating on, so that I feel like I'm able to actually enjoy and eat the quote-unquote indulge in the foods that I'd be eating that day that weren't my typical quote-unquote healthy, clean eating foods. So I remember, I think it was my sophomore year of high school, I forced myself to run a couple miles on the treadmill so that I could eat my special birthday dinner. I love pad thai and Thai food, so that's what I got. So I forced myself to run so that I could eat that, because that's a food I didn't let myself eat unless I felt like I'd earned it or it was a special treat. And then also to have my birthday cake later as well. And I remember on that specific year specifically is very vivid, still in my mind. And I remember that I pretty much ate the entire container of the pad thai, and the cake was really good, so that was also part of it, but I had a lot of cake. And it was the whole binge restrict cycle mentality where you only let yourself eat it on specific days of the year, and because you're restricting and denying yourself from honoring all the times you are craving the food or you do want to eat it, I feel like all the cravings hit you in that one moment and you just eat so much beyond, you kind of black out almost, and you're not listening to hunger cues or fullness cues or really craving cues at that point. You just kind of, because I guess you don't know the next time you're going to allow yourself to eat these foods or like eat enough, and so you kind of just let loose in that moment and like I'm saying over consume, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but you eat more than you normally would if you were allowing yourself to eat these foods whenever you wanted them. And I know also with birthday cake specifically, every year, even if I'd worked out, even if I had restricted during the day and felt like I did what I needed to do in order to be able to eat it, I still felt so guilty afterwards. And that was hard too, dealing with all the mental thoughts and my brain telling me this food's bad for you, even though like I was like, I want to be able to celebrate myself and enjoy my own birthday cake because it's a celebration of me, and food doesn't need to be nutritious all the time. Sometimes it can just be something delicious. It doesn't need to necessarily be good for you. But but, it's something that you eat in celebration to bring people together, and it's a way of socializing with others and celebrating yourself and other people, and it's so much more than just the cake itself, and that took me a while to realize, and I didn't understand that back when I was dealing with my eating disorder severely, and I just saw it as something that I shouldn't be eating because it's too high in carbs, too high in sugar, too high in calories, and even though I did want to be able to eat it and enjoy it fully, I never was able to, even when I felt like I had done everything I needed to do in order to feel okay when eating it, like I said. But I think I finally realized how all-consuming and exhausting it was, and all the intrusive thoughts around food. And so that's obviously, like, in general, that's what I worked on in my recovery journey, but also my birthdays every year, I've challenged myself to I just paid more attention to how my thoughts pop up and how I react to them now. And instead of letting them take control over me, or, I get kind of anxious then because I'm only allowing myself to eat this tiny slice, and then I kind of go back for more later when, everyone's left the party and my roommates are asleep, and you kind of take a shit ton more. And you kind of just eat all of that alone then, and within like a minute or something, because you just want to consume it because you've been craving that second slice since, 6 p.m. But now it's like you're finally giving in at 10 p.m. or something, and you just eat a bunch. And part of it is also eating in front of other people and, judgment and they're getting a second slice. Like, do they really need it? Because I know for me in particular, comments being made on what I was eating was very prevalent growing up in my household and just other people as well in my life. And so that's something I've really had to work on unlearning and recognizing that not everyone has that same mentality around food. Not everyone you encounter in life is going to be judging you for what you're eating. And that's been great coming to college because I met so many more people that they might not even consider themselves having dealt with anything, but they just have always had a really solid, healthy, wholesome, happy relationship with food, and they don't really think too much about food like I have most of my life. And so that's been incredible to be around, and just feeling a lot safer when you're eating, and there's no judgment around that. So that's been a really helpful part of it. But anyways, every year I've just challenged myself to be a little bit more intuitive every time I eat my cake, and just to face the thoughts and tell them to fuck off. And they don't hold any power over me, and telling them that I am allowed to enjoy my own birthday cake without feeling guilty. I'm able to eat as much as I want of it in that moment. It doesn't need to be such a... it was just a scary... especially eating alone as well. But this is, I guess, in the days following my birthday, if I wanted another slice, eating it alone or something, the thoughts are... And, okay, so before I continue with that, I do want to make a new series, too, where I eat people's fear foods alone, and I film myself talking while I'm eating it so that I can talk through how I deal with these intrusive thoughts and how I've overcome some of my fear foods, too. I'll talk about that, because I know that being alone with your thoughts in general can be a scary place, and especially for people dealing with an unhealthy relationship with food or dysfunctional relationship with food, it can be an even scarier place when you're alone and not necessarily around other people, because you feel like you have no control over the food you're eating or how much you're eating, or it's just hard because you feel like you don't have that control, and it can be a very uncomfortable, unsettling place. And so I want the series of episodes to be something for you to listen to when you are eating a fear food, or maybe you're struggling someday and you need someone to talk to about these things, or someone to help walk you through these things. So I guess today can even be the first episode of this series. We'll do a birthday cake edition. But yeah, I basically have a slice of my birthday cake here next to me, and I'm going to eat some of it and talk to you guys. Talk to you all about birthdays and eating fear foods like these and how you kind of deal with the thoughts, and also being alone eating a slice. Around other people, it's sometimes a little bit easier in a group setting like that if everyone else is eating, but specifically we're going to be doing eating alone as well. So I'm going to take a bite. I don't want to chew while I'm like next to the mic, because I hate those mukbang videos where people have the ASMR like chewing. That grosses me out so much. So let me pull the mic away for a second. But okay, I have like a little glass. Let's see. Okay, I hope you can't hear me chewing. I might dampen the volume of this part, but yeah. Oh shit, oven's going off. Okay, sorry about that. My sweet potatoes were done, but anyways, back to the episode. My relationship with food has been, it's gone on various ends of the spectrum: orthorexia, binge eating, anorexia, restriction. I've never binged before, but I have thought about it. And yeah, I feel like I've dealt with a bunch of just different stages of my life, and depending on how I was feeling at different times, and other influences in my life. But I think generally for me, it's always been a binge restrict. That's been the main thing I've dealt with, the combination of those two. And I think with cake and sweets in particular, I've always had a sweet tooth. I love chocolate. But I remember when I was dealing with my ED pretty badly, I would always do that thing where you take a small slice and then you kind of go back later for another one, but you only cut a little bit more, and then you go back and you cut a little bit more, but you're not letting yourself take like the full piece, because you simply think you're not allowed to, when really doing that is going to let you fulfill that craving. And that's truly what you need to do to have a healthier relationship with food. Let all foods fit, and also let yourself honor your cravings, because if you don't, then that's how that binge restrict cycle kind of persists, and that's pretty damaging in the long run, because it's just mentally so draining to constantly deal with, because then you're constantly sitting there thinking about that food that you want to eat, or you want to go back and cut another little sliver of it, and then another little sliver, when really just taking the entire amount you want up front and eating that is the best thing you can actually do, no matter what food it is. And this is also scary, because then you feel like if you take the whole thing, you're going to eat the whole thing, which is, I mean, that's scary to deal with too, if you feel like you don't have control around how much you eat. And I know I've dealt with that in the past, where I felt like I had absolutely zero control. If I took a whole piece of something, like I feel like the whole thing would be gone, even if I didn't want to eat the whole thing, or, you know, it was too sweet, or I just didn't want to keep eating it, I simply would. And that's just come with time and practice, but that was really scary dealing with growing up and not feeling like I was able to control any of that. And it was really, my body just kind of took over. And I've just worked on listening to my body a little bit more, and how I feel after eating something, and you know, picking up if the food starts tasting a little bit differently in my mouth, or if my stomach's hurting a little, or maybe I ate a lot of something in a moment, I kind of binged on it, and then afterwards I feel really shitty. When I was growing up, that wouldn't stop me from doing it again, because I wasn't taking these periods to reflect on it and work on like changing my mindset the next time that feeling popped up. But now I'm working on being more aware about it, so I can shift my habits and change it the next time it comes up, and then the next time change it a little bit more, and then make it a little bit more concrete, my new mindset. And so I work on just checking in with myself, and I'll ask myself, like, maybe I'll eat half of it, put it down, wait 5-10 minutes, see if I'm still craving it, if it still looks good, sounds good, keep eating it then. If my stomach's hurting a little or it feels a little bit too sweet in my mouth, then I'll kind of stop because I know I'm not going to enjoy it if I keep eating it, but I'm going to leave it there. And if I do want to come back for a little bit more in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, leave it for tomorrow, I know that it's there and I can go back and eat it then, because that's not my one time to eat all of it. I don't need to eat it within this one period or on this one day, because I'm letting myself eat it any day I want. And so you remove the pressure of feeling the need to just overindulge in that, whatever that food is, like the pressure of needing to eat all of it then to fulfill all the following cravings you're going to get from it. So yeah, that's kind of been the biggest thing for me, but it's just a work in progress. And some days I still have binge periods and episodes. Some days I feel really good and I'm able to eat pretty intuitively and listen to my body, but it's just really about showing up every day and just trying to be a little bit more in tune and listening to your body and like honoring these cravings. And just remind yourself that if you do kind of revert back to old mindsets or, you do binge or something like that, you're not falling backwards. It's not a bad thing necessarily. You shouldn't feel ashamed. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. You shouldn't feel like you fucked up and ruined all your progress. That's just a part of the healing journey. You can't expect yourself to be perfect with it all the time, and it's not going to be perfectly positively linear. You're going to have bumps in the roads, and I like to say it's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And those moments where you do kind of find yourself falling back, that's the time where you really challenge yourself to reflect on those experiences and see, what happened, why it happened, think about, like maybe what triggered it, what caused it, was it something else going on in your life? If something upset you going on in your life and you were taking it out on food, that's been a big thing for me. And so that's been a lot of my reflection and part of my recovery journey, but working on figuring out the root of why I was acting this way around food, or I would have these binge episodes, and digging into it wasn't always about the food. It usually always had to do with something else, either how I felt about myself or internalized beliefs from other people in my life and what I'd see, in the world and media and diet culture and the beauty industry. And so that's been a big part of my reflection journey, but it's also been so instrumental in changing my relationship with food and how I approach these foods now. And when I have these periods where I do kind of revert back or feel the thoughts popping up again from my ED, I'm able to now change the way I think about them, and they don't hold as much power over me anymore. And I think when you do have those episodes where you do fall back, every time you're able to remind yourself that you don't need to listen to them, or you don't need to let them carry as much weight over you because they're just a thought. You don't need to, that doesn't mean it's true. That doesn't mean you need to accept it or do what it's telling you to do. I think that just makes you more powerful each time that happens. And so it's not a bad thing if you do fall back into those old habits. It's just more about, I think the most important thing is how you reflect on them afterwards and you move forward. And it just becomes a little bit easier each time it does happen because you've done it before and you know how to turn these thoughts and, not give them as much weight as you would have in the past. And so that's been a big part of it for me. But I think also in general, my birthday, I feel like everyone always says this, but your birthday is like a sad day. Like you're always just sad on it for some reason and when you're celebrating. And so I think that was also part of the reason why I would kind of binge as well, because I'm taking those emotions out on food, which I've talked about in a previous episode of how I just used to use food as a coping mechanism, and I feel like other people have different outlets, but food has always been my main one, and so that was also part of it. But now I just remind myself that it's just a food. It's okay if it's not the most nutritious food out there. In the past I've tried to make healthier versions of cake using alternative ingredients, and I wouldn't let myself actually eat real sugar or flour or anything like that because I felt like I needed to make something quote-unquote cleaner so that I wouldn't feel guilty when eating it, or the whole thing where people say, like, your body is a temple. Like, I don't know. I understand the importance of eating healthy and stuff, but you need to have that balance, and not everything you eat needs to be nutritiously dense. You're allowed to eat foods that are just simply good tasting. Food isn't simply a number or a calculation, and it serves so many other purposes in our lives and within cultures, and that's really important to remember, especially on your birthday and these types of celebrations, because although it might not be the most nutritiously dense food, it may not be serving that purpose. It's serving the purpose of celebrating you and bringing people together and, you know, people singing to you and putting candles on the cake and having everyone you love around you. And, like, that's what purpose it's serving. It doesn't need to be nutritiously dense. And you don't need to demonize the food either. And you can just see it as like a neutral thing, and you let yourself eat as much as you want, as much as of it you want in that moment, but you know, do not need to feel guilty afterwards, ashamed, embarrassed, anything like that. And you also should not feel compelled to earn the food, burn it off afterwards to compensate. You're allowed to simply just enjoy it in that moment without any other sort of stipulations around allowing yourself to eat these foods. You're allowed to just enjoy them simply because you want to, and you don't have to feel guilty or burn it off or anything like that. It takes time to build trust with your relationship with food when your entire life you haven't been able to trust yourself around food, or you feel like you've always had a dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship with food and feeling like you have a lack of control around it, and it just doesn't, you always have a hard time being around food, and it just doesn't ever feel good. And so building that trust does take time, but it is possible. And I will say that this year was one of the best years I've had with birthday cake and birthday food without feeling any guilt, being able to go out and enjoy the brunches, dinners with my friends, eating however much I want of whatever foods we're ordering what I'm craving and not what I feel like I have to get because it's better for me. And that's been a huge process and a lot of reflecting, therapy. Every time that, you know, I fall back in those other habits from my ED, changing my mindset a little bit each time and just doing more and more reflection and challenging myself to reinforce these new mindsets and habits, and also having more people in my life who do have this mentality around food that aligns more with food freedom as opposed to diet culture. So that's been a big part of it as well. But it is possible. You shouldn't feel guilty for eating birthday cake or any other foods for that matter. And I also didn't want to be chewing on the microphone, so I have been eating the cake, but just not on the mic, just because I hate that sound. I don't want anyone else. I feel like I have misophonia. So if anyone else does, I don't want to put them through the discomfort and how uncomfortable that makes me feel when I listen to that sort of form of audio. But I'll post a photo though of it. But anyways, this is definitely more of a stream of consciousness episode compared to the last one. I felt like I needed to have a more clear train of thought with that and trying to get my argument across because it was a little bit more of a serious topic that I had some more strong opinions on. But this one was more so just a chat and just talking through some feelings. So I feel like what I talked about kind of bounced back and forth, but I kind of like this. I feel this feels more raw, vulnerable, real as well. So anyway, this is where I'm going to wrap up with today's episode, though. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought this was kind of fun to film because I wanted to do some reflection on how my food journey with food has progressed. And obviously, that's what kind of the whole basis of my account and this podcast is for. But I thought it would be fun to also reflect on like my birthday each year, and starting with this year on here. I thought that would be cool to do and log here as well, to be able to look back on and for other people to kind of listen into as well. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did enjoy it, feel free to leave it a rating and or a review, preferably 5 stars, but whatever you think it's deserving of. And yeah, again, thank you so much for listening if you made it to the end. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, of your week, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.